I think audiences have finally said it's enough when it comes to many of these live action Disney remakes, because we saw Mufasa the Lion King just came out in theaters and it only brought in $35 million domestically during its opening weekend. Now, as a point of comparison, the Marvels, when that came out last year, it made over $40 million domestically during its opening weekend. Now, this could be some animosity towards Disney in particular, but I don't think that's 100% the case, because we saw other Disney releases this last year like Deadpool and Wolverine or Inside Out 2 or Moana 2. All three of those movies were highly successful. So I think a lot of this is just pushback towards the soulless cash grabs that are these live action remakes that Disney's been putting out. And this was almost reflected when we saw the first trailer for Mufasa the Lion King, because even though the like to dislike ratio isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, at one point I believe there was more dislikes than likes on this one. I think that's when it was first released. But as time went on, it got a little bit more positive, but still no one was super excited about this. I think at best people were just kind of indifferent, like, well, I'm not really interested in that story, but I guess I'm willing to check it out. The same can't be said for the latest or the next live action remake that Disney is going to be putting out, which is Snow White, and that's supposed to be released next March, because everything that they've been putting out when it comes to that has just been heavily ratioed on YouTube. The first trailer has millions of dislikes, and they just released this new video for it. It's a clip from the movie, and it has 9.2K dislikes to 2.4K likes. So not very good. And when you look at this, there's nothing like, I guess, terrible out of it. I mean, that's not necessarily the best looking CGI that they have there, but I would say this just is kind of in line with what we've come to expect from a lot of Disney stuff, but still people really just don't like this. And I think there's a lot of factors for that. One of the big ones I think is stuff like this, where they're changing the original story, because when Disney is going to be remaking an animated classic, you would think that the audience that you're trying to capture are fans of the original one. And when you're drastically changing the story as they're doing when it comes to this, well, then suddenly those people are out, and not only are they not going to watch it, but they're also going to be saying how much they don't like it and what they don't like about it. And then you also have Rachel Zegler starring it, because she spent the last couple of years seemingly trying to alienate large sections of audiences with a lot of her rhetoric online and attacking people, and not only attacking the people who don't like what they're doing here, but also just attacking the original Snow White itself, saying that she felt it was kind of misogynistic and a very dated movie, and they need to change it presumably to make it better. So the backlash to Rachel Zegler has also, I think, accounted for why the trailers and everything put out for Snow White has been doing terrible for them. And some people have said Rachel Zegler is just box office poison. That's why everything that she's in seems to be doing bad. Movie that she was in recently, Y2K, did terrible at the box office. But I'm going to push back on this a little bit, because I thought that was a movie that probably wouldn't have done good regardless. It just didn't seem like it was something that was going to be great. It struck me as like a horror movie that you would see dumped in January or February, kind of where there's just the crappy movies. It came across as something like that. I'm sure there's some people who might watch it and like it, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like one that would actually succeed at the box office in the way that other horror movies did. But, I mean, if you want to blame Rachel Zegler for that, go ahead. She really hasn't earned much goodwill when it comes to audiences, and many things that she has starred in pretty much has been a failure. The only exception would be the Hunger Games movie, and that one was still underwhelming when you compared it to some of the other Hunger Games movies out there. But this upcoming Disney Snow White, it kind of has two things working against it. Like I said, Rachel Zegler starring in it and a lot of her rhetoric, and also just the fact that it's a live action remake of something, and people are just not interested in those kind of things anymore. If Disney wants to do live action remakes, they have to actually have a purpose for that, as opposed to we own the IP, so let's just try to capitalize on it, because coming up with original stories is really difficult. And they've just been doing this these last couple of years, and sometimes they've been met with success, but I think when it comes to this new one, they're just going to find themselves losing hundreds of millions of dollars. Because take a look at this article from Forbes that came out last month. It says, as of the end of 2023, Disney spent around $270 million on this movie, which is just an insane amount. And then you also have to consider they've done a number of reshoots and other post-production work since then, because I think after this, that's when they've replaced all the actors with the CGI dwarfs and other things like that. That's one reason why it looks so bad, is because they're trying to cut corners on it, but still it's going to be really expensive in order for them to do this. Some reports are saying that the budget for this could have ballooned to nearly $400 million. And if that's the case, this is a movie that probably needs to make around $1 billion at a minimum at the box office in order to just break even. And I really can't see that being the case when you look at how Mufasa has been, because like I said, the reaction to that wasn't nearly as negative as it was for this Snow White movie. And even though that was very expensive, it still didn't cost nearly as much as this one did to make. So it's really not looking too good for this. And I'm not really sure what kind of career Rachel Zegler can have after this, because there's really nothing appealing about her. Maybe she's a decent enough singer or something like that, but still, the talents that she's actually able to bring to the movie isn't going to offset all the baggage that she brings to, because a lot of people just don't like her. And I don't see why a movie studio would actually want to work with her. She's done a lot of big projects these last couple of years, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that she was hired on for those, and those were already going before much of this baggage came out from her. And I think after this movie's over, then her career, I'm not going to say it's done entirely, but I think we're going to see significantly less of her, just because of all that she brings to this is not really good. And for Disney, if they want to start, or at least if they want to stop losing money on these projects, I'm not saying you can never do a remake of something, but you have to actually have a purpose behind it, as opposed to just doing a shot for shot remake because you own the IP for it. I think you can do something different with it, but at the same time, keep it similar enough and stay true to the source material. That, to me, that's kind of the way you remake something. You have to make it different enough to justify actually doing it, but not so different that it feels like it's just a remake and name only. This Snow White feels like it's a remake and name only, or at least from what we've seen from it, because it doesn't stick true to the original points of the story that we already have. And Mufasa, it's not really a remake. I guess that's something original, but at the same time, it's a story that people just didn't care to ask for. And it is kind of retconning the original story, so a lot of people don't like that about it, but that's another thing entirely. I think Disney, if they want to try to get profitable, look at what was successful this last year with their movies like Deadpool and Wolverine, or Inside Out 2, or Moana 2. Maybe those were just kind of soulless cash grabs, but at the same time, they still just tried to expand on it a little bit and enhance the original story, as opposed to just doing something because they own the rights to it. At least that's what I think Disney should do. Try to expand on what you have, but better yet, create original stuff out there that is appealing to new audiences, as opposed to doing something because you want to just push a political agenda, which is something that a lot of people have pointed out when it comes to this Snow White, why they're doing. And most people just aren't interested in that sort of thing when it comes to their entertainment. They want it to be escapism as opposed to just being lectured at. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think Disney could actually do something to bring back audiences? Because we have seen them meet with some successes last year. So how could they actually bring that to other movies? Or do you think that those were just flukes, and for the most part, Disney is just going to have failure after failure until they get rid of a lot of the leadership at the company? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.